Key point 1. The eternal question of where inequality came from. Though everyone believes, or at least should believe, that people are created equal, the way our world operates doesn't exactly reflect this. There are people with so much money they don't know what to do with it, while others are living paycheck to paycheck, and some are dying from hunger and uncured diseases. What are the sources of inequality? Where did certain societies get the power and means to colonize so much of the world? Why is there a division into first world, second world, and third world countries? Why weren't Native Americans, Africans, and Aboriginal Australians the ones who decimated, subjugated, or exterminated Europeans and Asians? Jared Diamond, Ph.D. To find out the answers to these questions, we must dig deep, further than the year AD 1500, when colonization was just starting. At that time, peoples of Europe, Asia, and North America already used metal equipment and were on the verge of industrialization. Concurrently, Native Americans utilized stone tools, while sub-Saharan African dwellers had iron. At the same time, farming and hunter-gatherer societies still ruled in places like Australia and New Guinea. These discrepancies lie in the foundation of the inequality we have right now. Societies with better tools conquered those who couldn't protect themselves with weaker materials. But what was the reason for the divergence? Different rates of progress and the reasons behind them hide the answer to power acquisition. What is clear is that at the core of world development lies guns, germs, and steel. They are intrinsic for survival and further development. What influenced their progress is a further question in this discussion. An explanation might provide sufficient ground to prevent the same mistakes in the future. Key point 2. The starting line and the dawn of agriculture. Establishing when inequality began and finding the ground for comparison is difficult. Multiple proximate causations could have influenced the happenings of world development. Defining what led to the inequality humans experience now and have been subjected to for decades is complex. Some people might oppose finding the answers to these questions, claiming that explanations might justify racism, genocides, slavery, and murder that resulted from power inequality. Far from it, understanding the root of evil doesn't mean sympathizing with it or excusing the horrors it caused. What it can do is teach us to avoid mistakes made in the past. Several points show a correlation that might explain the world's development route. One of them is agriculture. Since humans diverged from our ape ancestors, according to some scientists, we hunted and gathered to survive. Domestication of plants and animals began only 11,000 years ago. The birth of food production wasn't simultaneous for everyone. Some people developed it independently, such as the ancient Chinese people. Ancient Egyptians, on the other hand, acquired it from neighboring settlements. Interestingly, some, like Aboriginal Australians, never took up food production. So, how is food production connected to guns, germs, and steel? The relationship is not apparent, but the domestication of plants and animals created numerous prerequisites for the fates of many nations. To begin with, the amount of food a country has corresponds to its population. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle is risky because it doesn't provide enough stability. When you have a defined food production system, you can be sure you and your family have enough to eat in the coming days. Domesticated animals fed people in 4 ways: by providing meat and milk and offering their service as fertilization providers and plow pullers. They also gave us warmth and valuable materials and became a reliable means of transportation. This comfort gave nations the stability to prosper and the power to win wars. People owe the lion's share of their success to animals. Animals are also intrinsically connected to germs. Humans with domesticated livestock acquired resistance to many diseases. But when they came in contact with those who didn't interact with animals as much, The latter didn't have proper immune systems to fight the germs. This discrepancy played a decisive role in many European conquests, including those of Native Americans and South Africans. Key point 3. Why do some have and others have not? While we already understand the many riches agriculture brings, how do we explain its uneven spread? What's more, looking back at the history of agriculture, we may notice some surprising geographical peculiarities concerning its development. Take California and other U.S. Pacific states, for instance, areas great for growing crops and herding animals. Yet when European colonizers came to that part of the world, the Native American people there were still hunter-gatherers. There's another surprising occurrence. The earliest sites of agricultural development are located in pretty dry areas, such as Iraq, Iran, Mexico, the Andes, parts of China, and the Sahel region of Africa. To answer the question of uneven food production development, we should consider the factors that led to the evolution of this practice. 5 key elements influenced the rise of food production. 1. A decline in the accessibility of wild resources. Throughout human existence, the population of many animals decreased because of extensive hunter-gatherer practices. Some species even disappeared completely. This decline happened with different intensities in various parts of the world. That's why the need for consistent food production appeared unevenly. 2. The increase in the availability of plants suitable for domestication. While the animal population was declining, plants offered a bountiful alternative. Climate change brought wild cereals, which didn't take long to grow, and presented a rewarding harvest. 3. The evolution of technologies. Humans consistently developed new inventions that would allow them to process, gather, and store food. Mass production of food was impossible without the necessary equipment. What use is a grand harvest if a human can't collect it before it withers? Once the technology appeared, former hunter-gatherers could change roles and become food producers. 4. A rise in the human population. Did the increase in population density cause the evolution of food production, or vice versa? There's no clear answer because this phenomenon creates a cycle. More food leads to more humans, and an increased population causes an increased resource need. 5. Geographic boundaries. Food production increased the population, so hunter-gatherers had only 2 choices: either adopt the new practices or get killed by the food producers, who were much more significant in number. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle remained present only in areas entirely unsuitable for the domestication of animals and plants. Key point 4. Upgrading to state-of-the-art technologies. The next step on our journey is discovering how the evolution of agriculture influenced the most important inventions. Technology, including guns and steel tools, dictates power in the world. It serves as the key means for conquering other nations and expanding the realms of countries. What are the prerequisites of technology development? Why did the Eurasian population invent firearms and steel equipment? Why did the Native Americans and New Guinea peoples still use stone tools in AD 1800 when most of the world had already discarded them? Most importantly, why did this happen, considering that New Guinea has one of the most extensive deposits of copper and iron? To begin with, the same inventions produce different reactions in various societies. More conservative communities that like to stick to the old ways frequently discard novelty, no matter how convenient it might be. For example, the Aborigines of Northern Australia could have easily adopted bows and arrows from people they were trading with, for example, those in the Torres Straits. This might explain why some societies used stone while much better materials were available. The degree of receptiveness frequently depends on the geographic location of the communities. Aboriginal Tasmanians, for example, are one of the most isolated peoples on Earth. They created their inventions. Yet societies in close contact with other lands exchanged tech knowledge and rapidly developed innovations. Geographic location and technology diffusion go hand in hand. Other cases are worth paying attention to, such as acquiring technology and abandoning it with time. The most striking example is Japan, which adopted gun production from Portuguese travelers and was so impressed by the firearms that it started creating and improving them rapidly. The tricky part came when the government, controlled by the samurais, who famously gave preference to swords and considered them a form of art, started slowing down the production of fire weapons. Japan and the United States have vastly different attitudes toward robots. While robots are often seen as futuristic and exciting in the U.S., they're more commonly associated with traditional cultural values such as respect for elders and the desire to create a harmonious society in Japan. As a result, robots in Japan are often designed to look and act like humans, while in the U.S., they're more focused on efficiency and practicality. Key point 5. Animal domestication led to the blessing of the germs. Food production brought along a vital element of gaining world power: germs. All the significant diseases like smallpox, flu, plague, and cholera that killed millions of humans evolved from illnesses that affected only animals. Germs have killed people for many years. Until World War II, wars didn't bring as much destruction and death in battle wounds as in the infections caused by war-borne microbes. The most gruesome example of the destructive power of germs is the fate of Native Americans during the European conquest. Spanish conquistadors killed vast numbers of Native Americans using firearms. However, the diseases they brought along caused much greater destruction. Why did the destruction happen this way and not the other? Why did the rise of agriculture create germs so powerful they can wipe out millions? For the New World as a whole, the Indian population decline in the century or two following Columbus's arrival is estimated to have been as large as 95%. Jared Diamond, Ph.D. As we've already established, the rise of food production leads to an increase in population, and more people means more germs. A sedentary lifestyle means that people live close to bodily waste. Hunter-gatherers didn't have this problem. They simply left it behind. Feces also gets recycled into fertilizer, which again increases exposure to germs. Animal diseases evolved into human ones, and humans died until they developed resistance to the germs. When white people came to North America, they brought along the germs their immune systems were used to. For Native Americans, however, that meant death. Still, why didn't Europeans succumb to the North American germs? Several reasons might provide some answers. One of them is the fact that the density of the population was increasing at a much slower pace in America than in Europe. Another much greater one is directly connected to animal domestication. Only 5 species were domesticated in America: turkey, alpaca or llama, guinea pig, duck, and dog. None of them carry as many germs and diseases as pigs or cows. A turkey is neither as cuddly nor as infectious as a lamb. Key point 6. The role of language in the fate of human societies. Literacy is so closely associated with progress that it almost became synonymous. The same goes for knowledge and power. Writing is essential for transmitting ideas with utmost accuracy. It's also a fundamental means of preserving information. New inventions and instructions don't bring much success if people share them without writing. Writing served as an agent of conquest, along with weapons, germs, and steel equipment. Accounts of earlier explorations inspired new ones, and travelers knew what to expect thanks to information about weather and customs. Maps and attack directions were intrinsic to conducting a prolific fight. Like all the other elements we've discussed, writing didn't have a simultaneous appearance for everyone. What were the reasons for these discrepancies, and how did they influence the nation's success? Early writing had minimal use, and only certain groups of people utilized it. Writing had institutional application in political matters and was used for bookkeeping and propaganda. People in charge of these tasks were bureaucrats who couldn't exist without food supplies provided by the agricultural states. Hunter-gatherer societies never picked up writing. It was useless to them. They had neither complicated governing systems nor food storage big enough to feed the potential bureaucrats. Independent writing systems and food production appeared first in Fertile Crescent, Mexico, and probably China. Like animal domestication, literacy then took the road of diffusion and traveled to the neighboring societies via trade and conquest. This diffusion is also why some agricultural communities, like the Inca Empire, didn't develop writing until modern times. They were too far from the nations that took up writing independently or adopted it. That's why writing grew much slower for some countries or didn't make an appearance at all. The absence of writing tremendously slowed the spread of ideas and information about inventions necessary for the success of states. Without it, society could neither adopt innovations from others nor preserve the instructions for its creations. All these elements had a significant impact on the nation's prosperity. Did you know? According to the UNESCO Institute for Statistics, every 1% increase in literacy can lead to a 2.5 increase in economic growth. Conclusion: inequality is awful, and its dominance in the world is a real tragedy for humankind. Everything has its reasons, and discrepancy in the quality of life is no exception. A myriad of factors were prerequisites for certain nations' success and others' misery. The discovery of those factors is a crucial analysis of world development, showing that something as inescapable as geography gave some nations a better start and slowed down others. Agriculture played the most critical role in the distribution of power. Food production gained dominance for many reasons, including the lack of wild resources and geographical boundaries. The rise of the human population, the increased availability of animals and plants suitable for domestication, and the evolution of technologies also gave way to a more extensive need for food. The rise of agriculture demanded the development of technologies. People came up with new ways of making their work more effective. Innovations increased the nation's powers even further. Domesticated animals play a vital role in human prosperity. Thanks to them, people developed essential resistance to many diseases and thus gained better immune systems. Try this. Knowing what happened in the past and why empowers us to change things today to get different results in the future. Are you in a position to change things? Realize that the smallest of details can alter the course of a person's life. In your own way, contribute to the fight against endemic diseases, hunger, and poverty in parts of the world lacking opportunities. You hold the power to make the world a better place.